welcome along to the Jazzcast. We're joined by another very special guest this week. As you can see, Ian Clark's is here with us. Donna's, unfortunately, is not. He can't make it. And Alan Fraser can't make it today either. But we are joined, thankfully, by John Mitchell. John, very warm welcome to you. And thanks for coming on and spending your Sunday afternoon with us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, guys.
So, going to have a look back through your Thistle career in particular. I think you're probably the first guest we've had on that doesn't have a Wikipedia page, by the way.
But they all pay for theirs. That's what they want themselves on it. I'm hiding.
When we look back, you played with Thistle, Clyde, Shotsborne Accord, Clydebank. I'm saying about right.
Yeah. And a few others.
And primarily, obviously, you signed from Thistle. You've been playing with Auchengill Boys Club, but you had some trials for Aston Villa, St Mirren, Falkirk, as well as Thistle. So you had a fair choice of clubs, at that age.
Well, it all happened within a kind of short space of time. It was over a period of maybe 2 months. All of a sudden, when I was playing in a Red Ash Park in Easterhouse, all these teams started coming in for us. So I think the first one was I was in training with St Mirren for a week with Alec Miller. So I was in there for a week. In fact, that was the first time I came across Gary Peebles. In a pair of pants, swanning about the dressing room at Love Street. Big, confident, loud guy. I was kind of, I'm just a wee boy looking up, going, who is this guy, man? He's like a honey monster. And then I was there for a week. They were talking about giving me a deal. And then I think after that, it was Aston Villa. So I went to Aston Villa for 2 weeks. Billy McNeil was the manager. Played a game at their training park against Sheffield Wednesday and actually scored in that game, and we won 2-1. Gary Shaw, I don't know if you remember Gary Shaw with the blonde hair. He scored the other one. Played a game at Villa Park against Leeds United, played really well. And then before I left, I met Billy McNeil. So Billy McNeil's offer was that they were under relegation threat at that time, and he said that if they stay up, he would offer me a deal. So that was fine. I went home, and then the next thing it was, I was the reserve game for Falkirk against Rangers at Brockville. Played that game. That must have been the week before. I then went to Lesser Hampden to play a reserve game for Thistle against Queen's Park, obviously. I think we won 3-1 and I'd scored 2 in that game. So after the game, caretaker manager was John Haggart. So my dad was there. So John Haggart got us out of the dressing room as soon as I was ready, took me upstairs in the old stand at Lesser Hampden and just threw a bit of paper in front of me and said, what I sign that. So I was like, here, and my dad was like, I just sign it. I was like, all right. So signed it. That was it. Went up the road. My ma's phone went. My ma said, there's a guy called Dave Clark on the phone for you. Dave Clark, aye. Falkirk manager. All right, okay. So, hello, how you doing, Mr. Clark? Hi, John, listen, sorry I wasn't at the game last week, but I was at the game the night at Lesser Hampden, and I want to offer you a deal. It's a 2-year deal at Falkirk. They were in the Premier League at the time. I was like, look, I'm sorry, I've already signed for Partick Thistle. So he said to me, you full-time or you part-time? I was like, I don't know. He's like, much money are you getting? I went, I didn't even know I was getting paid. Never knew any money. He said, well, look, I would offer you, he said, £200 a week. You get a win bonus, you're playing the Premier League. I said, well, listen, I've already signed. So that was that, and so right away I phones up John Haggart and I said to him, listen, do I get paid? He's like, oh, aye. He says, yeah, you're part-time, son. You get paid £80 a week and you'll be on £40 a point. And it was the 2 points for a win at that time. So that was it. To be fair, money wasn't a factor with me anyway. It was just, I just played football and that was it,
Your dad was a better joiner than he was a football agent then.
Aye. My dad wasn't really a football guy, if I'm being honest. He just came and watched me now and again. And I think he was just, I just sign it. I think he was just desperate to get back to the boozer. I've spent long enough watching you. I want to get back to the pub. So his hunt was Mun, so he just wanted to go back here. So I think was pretty happy to sign. That was on the Tuesday. I was told to turn up for the game on the Saturday, which was against Montrose. I think that was 1986. I remember turning up really early because my granny stayed, my dad used to stay in Palmmuir Street, just round the corner. And I hadn't been there in ages, I thought I'll go away around where my granny used to stay. And I used to pay £1 to play every Saturday with Auchingill. And I'm sure I took £1 with me that day. just because it's what I always did. And sure enough, I started in the first team. Never played one reserve game on the Tuesday and made my debut on the Saturday. So
Right, it was nothing each against Montrose,
Yeah.
21st March 87 it was.
was that what it was, 87? I'm terrible with years, but
Right.
I think it was near the end of the season. I think it was only like maybe 10 games to go or something like that.
And of course, Billy Lamont then came in as, as manager, taking, because John was just obviously the caretaker, and was there much difference in, this, for you just coming into the club?
Well, really, he was probably my first real manager anyway. I remember my first game, that game against Montrose, though, when John Haggart, I'm allowed to swear, I don't know if John, is that fine?
I do it regularly.
Obviously, if I'm talking about John Lambie, I can't explain any stories without swearing, but
exactly.
It was the game against Montrose, and John Haggart had come up to me and asked me, "Are you nervous, son?" So I was a wee bit nervous, but I thought the answer was, no, I'm fine. And he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and he pulled me down. He went, "Well, you fucking should be." I was like, "Oh, listen, I'm nervous." But no, the difference, Billy Lamont was probably my first real manager. I liked him. He was a bit tough. He was one of these guys that would just train you really hard. Technical side of it, I don't think he really had anything on John Lambie, but certainly all his was that his teams had to be really, really fit, which I was anyway. But it was an interesting time under him, let's say. It was interesting. I mean, I never really got a look in the team. I think he brought other guys in. I think he brought a boy Payton in for East Fife or something like that. Maybe done back in, remember boy Billy Payton or something.
Paxton.
That's a guy. Aye. They brought him in.
He's one of the ones I've ever seen.
I wouldn't say anything about a fellow professional, right? But I wasn't getting a look in, and then I think we were struggling with injuries, and we went up to 4th or maybe. And I think Doddsy came at the time. I think we won 4-0 or something. I played really well, and then that was me. I was in the team after that. So,
well, you get your first goal in the August the following season against Dundee United. That was a game, and at that point we just used to always draw. That was a period where every cup draw just seemed to be Dundee United either at home or away. And I can remember even going to Kilbowey to watch Thistle playing against Dundee United in the cup and stuff like that. But that was your first goal. But I want to talk about a free kick now. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember this. I'm sure you literally just get your head down. It was away at Airdrie, wasn't it? You literally put the head down and blasted this thing. It never moved. It was a rocket straight into the top corner. I think it landed at Firhill. It was going at that pace.
Aye.
But saying, if that's the game I remember, it didn't end too well for us, did it?
No, I think it was 5-1 or something.
5-1.
I think that was equalising. I think at that time in that division, there was kind of a bit of focus on the first division at that time.
Yeah.
And I think that it was second in goal of the season for that division, and the guy that won it was in the same game. It played with Airdrie. I can't remember the guy's name, and he scored a cracker as well. But I wasn't meant to be playing that game because I was actually injured and I really sore back. And I think Billy Lamont said, no, you need to play. So I think we were struggling at that time, and when we got the free kick, nobody wanted to hit it. Honestly, nobody wanted to hit it. I think I must have been 18 or something. I thought, I'll hit it. So, no, exactly, that's what happened. I just went with a wee bit of a wind behind me as well, and I thought, I'm just going to put my hood. When I played under 18s, I always hit the free kicks, and that was the way I hit them. I usually put my heat down, I just battered it. So it was either hitting the target or it was knocking somebody out. Unfortunately, that day, I think it was John Martin that was in goals. I think John Martin, and I don't think he even seen it. I think he dived after it hit the net. But I've got it on Facebook, and I've sent it to my son. My son plays football as well. So I've sent it to him a couple of times. There's how you put a free kick in me, man. You know, so
That game might have been on Scott Sport, I think.
I think so,
I have
yeah.
footage of it.
there's a funny story connected to that. It was years ago after I joined the fire service. I was in a nightclub one night and there was a fire service.
No. You, John.
I was in a nightclub. I can't remember what the name it was. It was a close fire chaos. It was down the stairs. Anyway, goes in with the fire brigade boys, and they always used to rip the piss out of me. Oh, I played for Thistle and all that. People say, "Oh, you joined Mitchell, whatever." So we were in this dance in this nightclub, and one of the big McManus that played with Celtic at the time, he was there. So one of the boys he said, "Is that big McManus there?" I was like, "I think it is." He says, "No, get on and talk to him and all that." So he goes there and he says, "Are you McManus plays with Celtic?" And he's like, "Aye, that's me." The big boys went, "Nah, you're no." Yeah, no, honestly, so he pulls his wallet out and he gets his driving licence out and he goes, "Aye there, you're McManus." And he said, my mate went like, says, he used to play for Thistle, and started laughing. And Big McManus said, "You're John Mitchell, aren't you?" I was like, aye. I says, "I thought you're it." He says, "No, I never said anything to him." He says, "No, my dad used to take me to Broomfield to watch Airdrie, and I was there and I seen you scoring an unbelievable free kick and I asked your name." He says, "And it always stuck in my head." I was like, "So we him all chuffed, we him to tell him this season that."
Brilliant story, man. Brilliant.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant.
So,
I want to ask you, given how well you hit a dead ball, was it because you missed your only penalty? That was why you were never in penalty duty?
oh, that was against Clydebank, wasn't it?
Yep, 1-0
Aye,
draw.
and Gallagher, it was in goals.
Aye.
Do you know something? I was a cracking penalty taker, right? And at training, nobody wanted that end, right? So, see, at training, I would just battle them in all the time. See, that day, I think Jim McGinley was playing with us at that time. I'm sure he was on the park at that time. So as soon as we got the penalty, he grabbed the ball. I thought, "What's he doing?" And gave it to me. And it was totally unexpected. And I thought, "Oh, fuck." And you know something? I think I actually shut my eyes when I hit that penalty. I was so nervous. And I think it was like 5 minutes to go. It was near the end of the game. And my man, my dad, all my family were on the stand. And no, I remember. In fact, I think I won the penalty anyway. I'm sure it was me who brought down.
Aye.
With big centre half, is it Coyle maybe? Was Coyle centre half? I can't remember. Something like that. McStay? Was it McStay? Can't remember. One of them anyway. He brought me down. Aye. So I won the penalty. Unfortunately, Gallagher saved it. And I don't usually put him in that side as well.
Penalty saved by Gallagher. He was some keeper.
He was a great goalie, aye. But it was a shite penalty, to be honest. It was poor.
Well, that season, 87-88, we had a good run, got to the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember more, the Celtic, okay, we played Celtic and we know what happened, but I think I remember that more for the two games against Forfar. The two we played Forfar, it was a replay, beat them, and then the same thing happened with Clydebank. By God, we were entertaining. We Gallagher scored goals for fun that season, didn't we?
Yeah. Eddie, aye, soldier. Half his head, that guy, man. Honestly, I'll tell you a story. After we went after the Celtic game at the end of the season, Thistle took us to Ibiza, and I think it was Big Marzi was signed at the time. Big Paul Marr for the juniors. Jim McGinley was there. Eddie, John Wortman, Psycho. He was there, and there was one night I heard all this commotion, and they were the next room to me. I opened my room door, and there's Eddie getting arrested with Big Marzi, with the Spanish police with the guns. And as I opened the door, and I looked out, and Eddie's, he's like, "Mitchie, help us, we're getting tin-pailed." And I just shut the door. Right? I was like, "I'm not interested, mate. See you later." So what happened was the next day, Big Marzi's like, "We hear this." He says, "We're in this cell. There must have been 20 of these Spaniards." He says, "But there's this big Spanish guy, and he was like Jaws for Moonraker." He had sharpened teeth, he had big bushy eyebrows, he was massive. He says, and he kept staring at everybody. Everybody kept staring, everybody's looking away, they're all shitting themselves. He said, "Big Marzi," and Big Marzi was a lump of a guy. He says, and he looked at me, and I was like, oh, holy shit, man. He says, I just looked away. He says, and then he looked at me, Eddie, and me Eddie jumped up and ran out to him and says, you fucking looking at me. And the big Spanish guy just kind of looked away and shit himself. He was off his head. It was just typical Eddie, man. He was good, though. He was a good player.
Do you remember
much about that Celtic game, John? You always deny it every time I talk to you about it. The Saturday you missed, that you say you never missed.
Well, by the way, that's true. It wasn't me. I remember, honestly, it was wee Paddy. See, Paddy Kelly, I'm still raging to this day. It was, he came in for the blind side. I knew where I was hitting it. Chris Morris was standing in the line. I can still see it to this day. All I had to do was pass it into the corner of the net. And next time, wee Paddy came in, took it off my toe and booted it out of the bar. In fact, the wee man works in the REH. When I was in the fire service, we had a fire call there, and there he was, wee Paddy. And I had to go to him again when he hit it out of the bar. So honestly, it was him.
Let you off.
Although the papers say different though.
It must have been a great occasion though, John. You know, you were still, 18, 19 at the time like that?
Oh, it was amazing. It was some buzz, really. You know, it was. I was a Celtic supporter. As much as I never ever really got to games because I always played football myself. And obviously I was brought up in Easterhouse, went to a Catholic school. All my mates were all Celtic supporters. It was brilliant. I actually got man of the match. I got the sponsors man of the match. I get 30 quid and a wee trophy.
Actually.
Aye. I think Tommy Burns won the games man of the match and I got the Thistle sponsors man of the match after the game. So it was a brilliant experience. I still get people send me pictures of it and all that. It's a once in a lifetime thing for me. My professional career didn't really last as long as I would have hoped due to obviously a kind of bad injury that I had. But that's certainly probably the highlight in my career was playing against Celtic, that's for sure.
I think Billy Stark scored a belt on that game, didn't he?
The header. I think Machiavelli, hit the bar and he went in with the rebound and headed it in. Tommy Burns scored it by a belter.
It was a long range shot.
Yeah. And I think Andy Walker scored the first one with a header.
That's right.
But listen, there was nothing in the game that day. We had a few good chances. I'm sure we had a chance. I think a big John McNaught had a good chance as well. So there wasn't really a lot between the teams. You know, even at half time when we had our team talk, we still had a belief that we could do it. But again, the quality that they've got, or the quality they have, just kind of shone out. Just shone out in the day, really.
Yeah.
But John McNaught, the game up at Forfar that you were talking about, Raymond, did he play that game? Oh, no, that was the first game, sorry.
That first game.
Yeah, John McNaught, he scored in the 90th minute and ran right into the net, grabbed the nets. That was his situation. It was a good day, that day.
Aye, Big Wurzel. He was an Easterhouse boy as well, Big Wurzel. I met him a few times. I know he died eventually. I think he'd alcohol problems and issues that he had. But because I remember meeting him at Easterhouse one day at a bus stop and he was going to the hospital for a checkup for his liver. I says, how you doing, big man? I'm not bad, John. I'm going to the hospital, check up for my liver. I says, oh, where were you? He says, I was in the pub having a couple of pints. So, old habits died hard.
You look at some of the players as well. So, you know, at Thistle, Kenny Watson, Colin McAdam, Ian McDonald, Bruff, Kelly, Colin West was up on loan. Wee Soldier, you mentioned, Dodsey, Willie Maguire, Law, Flood, McCoy, Chick, Dinny, Murdoch, Peebles. Played with some good players.
Aye, listen, they were all brilliant players. More importantly, they were cracking characters as well. You know, I didn't only get an education in the football, I also get an education in how to survive in the Savoy. Honestly, I was the youngest out the lot of them. They were all cracking characters as well. There was never a dull moment, especially with Chick running about. There was never a dull moment the way them. I was quite a quiet guy, you know, but by the time I left there, I wasn't that quiet, but I was at the time. It was a brilliant time, you know. I've got some cracking stories. It was a great experience for me. I wasn't there as long as what maybe I should have for certain particular reasons. That was probably my fault. But no, listen, brilliant guys, brilliant players, and certainly it was great memories for me, that's for sure.
How good a player was Kenny Watson to play alongside?
Brilliant.
Because Kenny was coming to the end, obviously, at that point, you know.
Aye. But you can see, though, you see when you mix with these guys, I think, I need to try and explain it the right way. They've got a level of arrogance. It's a kind of arrogant self-belief that gets them to the level that they get to. You know, I never quite had that level, but like Kenny was a brilliant player. I mean, when I went there, he was getting heavy in that, you know, and he was getting to the end of his career. But you seen his touch, you know, the way he played the game, the way he could read the game.
Reading the game.
Aye, and he's obviously played at Rangers as well, and he's played with all these other guys, and you can see the difference, you know. And he was a standout for me when I went there as a young boy, and you watch people playing, you see the game. So he was one I could fixate on and say, you know, that's the kind of player that I want to be.
Right.
But there was other ones. There was other players. There was other great players went through there. Great players that probably should have went further than what they did.
Aye, but as I say, when you look back, in fact, you look on. So obviously Billy left, Billy Lamont left, and then with a couple of games where Billy Simpson, we were talking about, as you say, the comb over here, and Bobby Watson, who was a director at the time, taking over the team for a couple of games as well.
Do you know? But see, Bobby Watson, right? I think he took over. I'm not sure if his first game was up at Palmerston against Queen of South, and that was another one that stuck out for me because he came into the dressing room and he was doing his team talk. He's like, right, guys, well, you pass and move. Pass and move. He says, it's like a wee tune. And then he put his hands to his mouth like he's playing a flute. And then he started singing the sash tune and walking back and forth. And he's like, da, 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 da. And we're all sitting there like, just like, what's happening here? You know, honestly, that was his team talk. They started singing the sash and walking up and down the dressing room. Honestly, when I see that, tell people that story, go, no, I'm telling you.
It happened.
Honestly, unbelievable. Well,
John Lambie then came in. And again, I mean, he was known as a kind of no-nonsense, but a character. And of course, there's two games actually for the 88-89 season, I should say. One of which he scored in. Well, actually, he scored in both games, to be fair, that I'm going to talk about. But the St Mirren game, after the nothing each stroke for Hill, where I've saying to Ian earlier, I can remember that being nothing each, but one of the hardest shots I'd ever seen, because I think the crossbar was still rattling for about 2 weeks after it. Stevie Chalmers, I think it was. Paul Chalmers.
Paul Chalmers, yeah.
We got a nothing each. And then nobody gave us a nerfly for the replay. Well,
nobody except us. The players did. Players did. I think some of the players hammered us. I think we were 91 at the bookies or something like that.
91, 10-1, aye.
Aye, and the players hammered us. Because see, the nothing each game, we should have won that game. I was playing on the left-hand side and I was playing against, I'm sure Brian Martin I was playing against. And he was breathing out his arse every time I got it. For Hill at that time was a bit of a quagmire. It was a kind of a mud pile.
Yeah.
And I was quite a strong runner. I was quite quick. Every time I got it, I used to hit by him. And I knew I had him because every time I got the ball, you could see the look of terror. I have to say, oh no. I've actually got a picture somewhere up my loft and it was me taking the ball by him and you can see his face. I was have to say, oh shit, I'm going to have to chase him. We should have won that game. So going to Love Street, you know, we all believed that we could win. I loved that game that night. It was almost as if we knew we were going to win. I've scored. In fact, I made the first one for wee Jerry because I cut inside and I was going to have a shot. Just before I was going to shoot, I just seen wee Jerry running to the side and I just automatically laid it into him. And the wee man didn't even, all he had to do was, he was a great finisher, Jerry.
Yeah.
Ozzy had to do his turn and put it in with his left foot. And then the one that I scored, I think it came through a cross. And I remember in the first game, I had a chance where I kind of squaffed it, I kind of panicked a wee bit. And that was always in my mind for the first game. So I thought, this time I'm just going to make sure I hit the target. And that's what I did. And it went in. I think then wee Jerry's other goal was, I think, the diving header, and it was a cracker.
Yeah.
Because I had a good view. I can't remember who crossed it in, but it was a bullet header. And when I'd been at St Mirren about a year and a half before, Frank McGarvey was there. And he was a horrible shite. So he was horrible to me. Now I'm pals with Frank. Now I played with him at Clyde and I played with him at Shotts. But he was just horrible to me at the time. And see, during the game, I gave him it tight during the whole game. Honestly, I never stopped. It got that bad. I can't remember. I met me Chick. One of the boys said, "Listen, just leave him now." You know, but it was brilliant. You know, and Lambie would never tell you your bonus for the game. He'd always say, "Do me a turn, and I'll sort you out. Just you do it. I'm not telling you how much it is." So I think it came to the Monday, and I was picking up my wages, and it was Molly would give us them, and it was just the old brown kind of pay packet that you would get. And I lived in Easterhouse at the time, and I opened it, and it was like, we gave us £500 bonus, and at that time was a fortune. And like, I had my wages in tots, I had like something like £600 in my pocket. And I went to Jack and Ellie's, and I got myself ice cream and sweeties and get 2 buses up the road. And I never even thought, it was just because of what I've always done, you know what I mean? I had all this money, never even thought of getting a taxi, sat in the bus, took me an hour and a half to get home, you know, so just what I'd always did.
You look at that team, the 11 that started that night: Brough and goal, Dinny, Jim Kerr, Bobby Law, Jim Dempsey, Jerry Collins, yourself, Psycho, Floody, McCoy, and Chick. And Floody was unplayable that night.
Yeah, Floody was a great player. A great player. I know the wee man I broke my leg. I think Davy Wiley. It was Davy Wiley that broke my leg, and then Davy Wiley ended up doing the same to Floody. No long after, might be in the season after, maybe. So we won't say too much about him. But the wee man was a great player. I think he'd be going for Airdrie. Very quick, intelligent player. Probably should have another one. It should have went further than what he did.
Aye.
But no, it was a great squad of players, great characters, great dressing room. I say it was an education, that's for sure.
Well, later on, well, I think it was Hearts. We lost 2-0 to Hearts in the next round.
Yeah.
But again, that was a tight game from memory.
It was a tight game. They had a very good team at that time.
Yeah.
They had some cracking players, you know, and although we had good players as well, it was just, there was nothing in the game apart from, I think they maybe that wee bit more deadlier up front, wee bit more quality up front. And that was the end of that run, but it was good. It was really good experience, you know. It was
again for you know, you're a youngster coming through it, and you're going through it. You know, you've played Celtic in the quarterfinals the previous season. You've then been in what's still to this day remembered by Thistle fans as one of the best results, you know, in sort of recent, relatively recent times.
Yeah.
I think boys at a certain age remember that night and remember everything that happened, the rain drying down, and you know, and just jumping about and singing and dancing, you know, right through the game. But later on that season, you also scored in the Glasgow Cup final win over Clyde, which of course was the last time that was played as a senior tour.
Yeah.
Yourself and Jerry.
Was that 1989 or 1990?
Yeah, 1989.
Yeah. It's funny because I was driving home for football with my boy one night, and that question came up on as a tiebreaker, and the Radio Clyde thing, beat the pundit, come up as a tiebreaker, and I said 1989, and my boy said, "How do you know?" And I went, "Because I played in that game." It was good. The Glasgow Cup was a thing that I actually quite liked playing in it. You know, it was obviously just the teams, the Glasgow teams that were in it. I can't really remember much about my goal that night, if I'm being honest, but I'm sure it was me, and I think it was Lexi Grant scored the other goal.
Was it Jerry?
No, See, I remember reading that somewhere that it was Jerry McCoy that scored the goal, but I think it was Big Lexi that scored. I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but there's something in the back of my mind that it was me and Lexi that scored that night.
That's
It
another
was always good. It was always good to get one of your main rivals, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, that's right.
Aye.
Well, Joe, of course, the following season, you were up trying to renew a contract. Was it that summer? For the 89-90 season?
Aye, see, we always used to just sign for it. It was always a year. We always just signed a
Yeah.
year. There was never any long-term contracts at that time. It was before the Bosman. So you were retained. So it didn't matter whether you were out of contract, the club could still hold on to you. I never fell out with John Lambie. I think I had a cracking season the season before.
Right, I think he scored about 8 or 9 goals that season.
I had a really good season, and I think that was the season that Brian Gallagher came and Billy Abercrombie came, and I was keeping them at the team, and they guys get fortunes to sign on. So I had that in my head. I thought, hold on a minute, if they're getting money, I want some money. Now, see if John Lambie had offered me 500 quid, I'd have signed back on again. But he was like, no, I don't need you any money. You're retained. That's my principle. And I'm not sick. So to be game is due, he kept taking me to the games. He kept throwing at me, you signing. And I kept saying, no. I kind of got myself in a place that I was stubborn and that I couldn't go back. Aye, so he was the bending, I was the bending, although I really didn't want to leave. And then we played a game up at a friendly up at Gretna. I'll forget it. And he never played me. And he put me on near the end. And I ended up having a fight with one of the Gretna players. And let's just say I nearly knocked a guy out. And Jim Duffy was playing at the time. It was a big scramash, but the ref said he'd never seen it. Play on. So after the game, Lambie right outside, he's like, right, you cunt. Are you signing? You know? I was like, no. And he's like, right, I might have a move for you then. So I think Clyde had been on at him for me, and he kept saying no. And then he needed a forward, and then he decided, right, okay, you can have him, but he wanted Colin McGlashan.
Yeah.
So that was what happened. I went to Clyde, and Colin went to Thistle. Aye. You know, it was never the money. It was more, I just wanted them to, I don't know, just anything at all. Aye, just something. And it was funny because when I didn't fall out with him, no, I still had a good relationship with him. And when I get phoned up for the deal with John Clark, I remember him phoning me and saying, right, I've agreed the deal for you to come here. How much do you want? I was like, what did I say here, you know? And I thought, I'm going to say $5,000. And then I was about to say $5,000, and I thought, well, that sounds an awful lot of money. So I said $4,000. So he went like that, right, I'll get back to you. I swear to God, he must have put the phone down and counted to 10 and then phoned me back and says, right, okay, we've got a deal. So John Lambie phoned me back up and he says, right, son, did you do the deal? I said, aye. And he says, out of curiosity, I says, how much do you think I should have asked for to sign on? He went, oh, at least $10,000. I was like, right, okay. Aye, you know, that's why I think it's good for players to get agents, you know, because I was just still a young boy at that time. I never had a clue, really. But
and the football clubs at that time took full advantage of the fact that young boys didn't have a clue.
Aye, that's right, Ian. They did, and that's how. But at that time, agents were kind of vilified a wee bit. But not so much now.
These are the agents, I suppose. You know, there was a few kicking about, but not that many.
Yeah, that's right. You know, but I'm a fault. You're right. It's good that they've got them now, because then boys they don't get taken advantage of. You know, I know some of them kind of rip the arse out it a wee bit, but the players don't get taken advantage. I certainly did a wee bit. I just didn't have a clue what to do, if I'm being honest. My dad wasn't really a football guy. I'd nobody in my family who were kind of football oriented or had that kind of knowledge of what to do. So I was just kind of winging it, to be honest.
How would you though at that age? You wouldn't have a clue. And even if your dad was a football man, he wouldn't know either. You know, you wouldn't. How would you?
I know, but I loved my time here. John Lambie was a great guy. I loved playing on. He actually he caught me a cracker one time at training. I was really quick, and it was like, right, you. He says, I'll fucking race you for a score. And I was like, you'll race me for a score. I says, listen, I'll hammer you. He went like, right, I'll fucking race you for a score then. He says, give me 15 yards a start, then 100 yards. I went, I could give you 50 yards a start. Right? He's like, right, fucking do it then. So I was like, right, fine then. So all the boys were all there. They all knew what was happening. I've not got a clue. So it was at the track just in front of the main stand. And he's standing about 15, 20 yards in front of me. And it was like, right, go you cunt. So I started belting it, and he started running backwards and going, come on. So I'm like, what's going on? So obviously I've just ran by him and then ran back to him and went, right, that's a score you owe me. I went, no, you owe me. He went, no, you fucking owe me. I went, what do you mean? I went, I won. He went, I didn't say I beat you, I just said I'd race you for a score.
That is very similar, John, to a story Jim Melrose was talking about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
When Steely did at Leicester City.
Yeah,
very same thing with Gary Lineker.
And by the way, he took it off my wages. Learned a lesson there. Learned a lesson.
What was it like? Because the 89-90 season, John resigned, then he came back, Sandy Clark had taken over in the meantime. And when John resigned, that was after the St Johnstone game where both teams were undefeated that season. And, you know, a team was going well. What happened in those 3 months? Because we fell off a cliff. Apart from I think we drew with Raith Rovers, and Sandy Clark was still caretaker for that game and then got the job on the Friday. And of course we played John, had come back to Hamilton. Andy Murdoch was back. That's the infamous game, which we never remind Andy about. Bobby lost short cannon enough.
And then wee Bobby ran away as if he won 10 million quid in the lottery.
Right along the whole length of the shed.
Aye.
The one thing I always remember about Bobby, John, was when he came out, he used to spin the ball up in the air, just about 20, 25 yards out, spin it up there and half volley, and it never ever went in. So I don't think anybody was expecting what he did in that game.
Aye. Do you know my memory of Bobby is Bobby was he worked in a cattle farm or something like that. You know,
so he was a farmer.
Aye, something like that. And see when he came to training, he just smelt like manure. He actually had the dressing rooms at the time are massive. So he'd a peg to himself on the corner and everybody would shuffle away out the other side of the dressing room because he was and he'd wear these cords enough. He'd have these cords on that were just for like good shit and all that, you know. So we always stayed away from Bobby. But that game, I remember that game well, but it's hard to put your finger on it. I know everybody was talking about, remember when Neil Lennon took over Celtic, how he held the ship when Brendan Rodgers. It's a hard thing to do because I think when John Lambie left, we were almost in mourning. It was almost like about the dressing room. It was like as if somebody died. And I think the psychological side of football is a huge, massive part of it. You know, you could have all the ability in the world, you know, but see if you're not right up here, you're never going to succeed. And for me, that's what happened then. Sandy Clark came in and changed a lot of things, changed some personnel. He played this guy, I can't remember what his name is, right? But he played this boy, and he only played him because he played in a reserve game, and he put his head in he went to go for a header and get his face smashed and his nose broke. And Sandy Clark's, that's a kind of commitment I'm looking for, and played him, but he was hopeless. He was on the team. And I think all the guys were kind of looking at that, and it wasn't the same, you know. And that's my reason for, you know, the downfall that we had after that. I think we were looking at maybe going to get relegated after that, you know.
It was such a drop off for those. I think it was 3 months, 4 months. I think it was, because John came back again in the 8th of March.
Yeah.
Ironically, I think his first game for Thistle was actually against Hamilton again.
Oh, right.
And you scored, I think. Yeah, you did. You scored the third goal that day.
I can remember that. I think, do you know, John Lambie had this kind of aura about him. Now, see, when he took it the first time, I didn't really know him. See, when I played football, I didn't really know many people. I just wanted to play football. And I didn't see the guy I played against. Says, who were you playing? I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. That was the attitude I had. I just wanted to play football. But when John Lambie walked in that night, a lot of the other kind of more established pros knew him. I think he came in with that mad sheepskin jacket that he used to wear. But he just had that kind of aura about him, you know, that when he spoke, you listened. And if you didn't do what he'd asked you to do on the Saturday, and you were sitting in your arse the following Saturday, you know, and he would stick to that. Never had any favourites, apart from Chick, maybe. He got away with murder. But apart from that, you know, he never had any favourites at all. So he always kind of stuck to his word. You know, all this, I know he always had this honest John thing and all that, but he was, you know, he told me he would never give me any money, and he didn't.
Did that become a respect thing as well with John, because he was straight, you know, kind of straight down the line with everybody, and everybody was treated the same? Aye,
I think that's the same. I kind of took that in to my next career in the fire service. You know, I think if you're honest and you're fair with people, even they might not agree with you, right? But if they know that you're honest and you're fair, that's as much as they can ask for. For me, I know that's the way I would want to be treated, and that was how, even though when I left, I hadn't fell out with him. You know, it wasn't a case I'm never going to speak to him again. I'm still in good terms. I'm still in good terms with him, really. You know.
Aye. Well, but
it was a great thing. It was a great.
That's what I was going to say. You know, I mean, as I say, we spoke about some of the players who, if you think back to you coming through it, you know, joining Thistle and coming through, was there anybody who stuck out? I know you mentioned Kenny Watson. Was there anybody else there, you know, that kind of would give you advice and help in that respect?
There was guys like Ian McDonald who was there. Wee Mac was really, really good. But one of the best players out there that stuck out to me as well was Psycho, was John Whitman.
Yeah.
Because I remember I watched him. I think after I played that reserve game, there might have been a game midweek, and they'd asked me to come up and watch it. And I watched the game midweek, and he was brilliant. He was just flying up and down that left-hand side, putting crosses in. He had that kind of blonde hair, and he was outstanding. He stuck it a mile. I always remembered him. But wee Mark was really good. He was really good in the dressing room. His impressions of Bertie Auld and that were brilliant. You know, he'd have his howling before games. So they were the two that kind of stuck it to me. Some of the things that would happen in that dressing room, honestly, there was one time I remember it was big massive dressing rooms. It had a kind of weights machine in it and stuff. The showers, where the showers were, they'd probably they had a big bath, and then you had about 6 single baths, and then you had the showers. And the shower heads used to always kind of go into the baths. So what happened is one day I was just getting ready, I'd come out the shower, and next thing Chick comes belting, sprinting through the dressing room, bollock naked, shout, "Oh, big man!" I'm kidding on, come on, big man. And Big Lexi's chasing him. Big Lexi's, "I'm going to fucking kill you." So Chick runs round the corner out into the corridor, and Big Lexi says, "Where's that wee bastard's gear?" So I think Chick had I think it was a white shell suit he had. So Big Lexi grabs it off the peg, puts it in the middle of the dressing room floor, and grabs a mop pail full of dirty water and pours it all over Chick's white shell suit. So I was like, he's like, "You're a dirty wee bastard." So I'm like, "What the hell's going on there?" So what happened was Big Lexi's lying in the bath, and people used to go out with a shower head and put it on your head and annoy you. You'd be like, "Fuck off, stop that." So Big Lexi's lying in the bath. You know what's coming, don't you?
What's going
on his head, and he turns around and Chick's down and pissing on his head. Well, you would go mental if that happened to you, wouldn't you, really?
Yes, you would.
Aye, it was mad, but it was good. It was a good time.
What were the pre-seasons like under, Billy Lamont and John?
They were kind of similar, really. They wanted you to be really fit, and you did to play the game, especially now in the game. You need to be really, really fit. Billy Lamont used to take us up to the campsies, and up in the campsies, they would kind of get milestones there. But I mean, the sheep could hardly stand in the hills up there, and we were running up them. And I remember he shouted, he would go to the milestones and he'd wave because nobody had mobile phones or anything like that time that day. Like, right? And you'd barely just hear him going, right, come on. And so we'd run to each of the stones. And then I remember when we were making our way back, I think we're going to get the helicopter rescue because the mist came down and we couldn't find our way back down for the camps. We eventually got there, but and then John was kind of the same. He would get you up to Rockhill Park. He brought a guy in. He brought a fitness guy in, Bob something. I'm trying to remember the guy. I can't remember. It'll come back to me. And he had this idea of that during a game, you only really run about for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, whatever it was. So part of his training was that we would just run non-stop to net. You wouldn't get a rest for that amount of time. And we'd run up and down with the rope with the tyres. So you'd get all the tyres out, you'd have a rope down you, you'd have to run up and down up Rockhill Park, up the hill and back down again. So it was unique stuff. It was things that you're never going to get nowadays. Health and safety, blah. Do you know what I mean? Health and safety's ruined it all. It's ruined it all for us.
The agents would be in kicking up fuck as well.
Aye. By the way, I remember one of the boys when he was running down the hill, the tyre actually jumped up and started running down and tangled with one of the other boys and flipped him right up in the air. I mean, they'd be probably putting a lawsuit nowadays for that one, but we just had to laugh at it, really.
What about, because we couldn't, the one thing we couldn't find was much on getting the Clyde. I don't remember, what was it? Did you come back again and played against Thistle?
I did, I think we get beat 5-2. I think Thistle won 5-2, something like that. I remember Jim Duffy bringing me down for a penalty in that game. But apart from that, it was a blur. You could see the players that he brought in, you could see they were going places. He brought in good established pros, experienced guys. But listen, I never looked back. I never looked back really. I'd made my move, and to be honest, I was doing really well. And there was other teams. I think it was Lou McCarry that was interested in. I think he was at Swindon at the time. There was other talk of other teams coming in, so I was doing really well. I didn't let my heat go down when I went there. I just kept playing, and then obviously I got that bad injury that kind of finished me. Really, it was a kind of career-ending injury at that level.
How long were you? How long were you there?
I was only there about 2/3 of the season when I got my injury.
Right.
I did come back and played again. I think Alex Smith came to the club. I went back and played. I won a second division winners medal with Clyde.
Yeah.
Probably played half the games that season if I'm lucky. But I was never the same. Psychologically, physically, never the same. Because in their days, especially at Clyde, there were nice people at Clyde, but the facilities were poor.
Yeah.
We trained at Strathclyde Park under a lamp, and I was left to my own devices. I was in hospital for a week in Inverclyde Hospital. I had a big full-length plaster. And when I got home after a week, I lived in Kirtland Street, actually just across from Firhill. And John Hart was a physio at Partick Thistle at the time. And he was the only one that phoned me the day after getting from hospital and said to me, right, get up here, we'll start working on your leg. And I was like, are you joking, mate? I said, I'm in a full-length plaster. My leg's halved in two. He's like, doesn't matter. You need to start working on that now, or you're going to get loads of injuries. And I didn't take his advice, and he was right. I ended up with 3 knee operations and all sorts of stuff, And so it really kind of, I think it was 2 years, maybe 2 seasons before I even kicked a ball again in anger. See, when I went into Clyde Hospital, this is what happened. The guy said to me, when the swelling goes down, we'll give you painkillers and blah, 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 we'll straighten your legs. I'm like, fine. you know actually what done? My leg was still half in two. They had a wee stirrup like that. The doctor came down, he held it and lined it, and he says, right, tell us when the pain eases off. And I was like, what? I was like whiting with the pain. And I was like, right, that feels okay. And two guys next to him plastered me up. And says, right, we'll see, take you down for an X-ray and see if it's aligned properly. And that was how they done things then.
Oh.
So it wasn't 100%, knitted together. Done it. And that's why it took me so long to get back for that injury. But again, there's no point looking back. I've had a fantastic time after that. It's sliding doors, really, isn't it? Joined the fire service and had a brilliant career. So I can't.
Well, that's you've just got to go on, mate, haven't you?
That's right, mate. And that's how I think there's a lot of big stuff going on in football now with mental health as well. That I want to go in, because young players, if they don't succeed, they can sometimes get into a bad place.
Absolutely, aye.
But for me, I moved on to the fire service and had an amazing time after that. Amazing time.
What about your time in the juniors? Shots? There must be some stories there.
See, Shots, we had an amazing team. John Clark built up a brilliant team.
Aye.
And then there was a couple of things happened there with a doctor and doctors' lines that were fours, and the Shots ended up getting put out of the game for a year. So I think I moved on to Petershill. But, I was never the same player. I kind of bummed about junior clubs, picking up money, no really being the same guy. And probably
you still want to play? Were you still enjoying kicking a ball, or were you just?
Nah, I was probably an autopilot at that time. I was probably going through the motions. I'm somebody that has to have something to play for, a focus to play for, somebody to play for rather than me. And I think after that, the only real focus I then eventually got was when I went to Maryhill. I went to Maryhill Juniors, a guy called Neil Watt. Neil Watt was in charge. He was really cracking guy, really good to me. And I wanted to do well for him. So I started playing well. I started enjoying it better. And it was just the injuries that I got for my broken leg through the years that kind of held me back there. And then when I got into the management with John Richardson at Kilsyth Rangers, that gave me a focus, and we had quite a lot of success there. And I actually really enjoyed playing at that time. Kilsyth Rangers was probably my best time that I really enjoyed playing in the juniors, and I had a really good time there. Really good.
When you were at Clyde,
sorry?
You were at Clydebank as well, briefly, weren't you?
I went to Bankies. I went there for a year. Budgie wanted me to go there.
Aye, Budgie, of course.
Aye, Budgie was a manager, so I went there and played for a year. Really good club, well run, cracking people there. But again, I was kind of getting to the end of my career. I had a good season. I think I had a season and a half or season or two with them, but after that, it was time for me to finish, But I probably finished a wee bit too early, and I think my heart wasn't in it again after I left Kilsyth. But I'm still playing. I'm still playing the new. I'm playing the over 35s league. I played in the first over 35 Scottish Cup final a few years ago. I played in a final last year at Broadwood. The guys that I'd coached at junior level called me Eugene and all that. So I'm still trying to hang in some capacity, really,
Well, of course, you just recently retired for the fire service, so
yeah.
What about the coaching side? Was there at any point did you think, something I quite fancy management, or or keeping that involvement within the game on a managerial side or coaching side?
I had a few offers for the managing like junior teams and stuff like that, guys to come with me, and I managed a junior team, and I was assistant manager at Pollock. That was my last post with my mate John Richardson.
Yeah.
No, really. You need so much commitment for it. You need to. It's almost takes over your whole life. My priority was my family and my kids, and I enjoyed them even more. So you've got a phone in one ear, a phone in the other ear. You're a social worker. You're not just a coach. It really takes, if you want to do it right, it takes a real load of your life up. And I wasn't want to really make that sacrifice, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend time, you know, with my boy kicking a ball at the back or whatever. That was more important to me. But football's been my whole life. You know, my body's aching. I've got a metal plate here in my face. I smashed my face playing football. I've got everything wrong with me, but I would never change it for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll keep playing. I'll keep playing till, I don't know, maybe somebody attaches a defib to me, or just wheel me off the park. You know, I'll keep going.
It's still, I mean, it's when you think to the time you were at for how you crammed a heck of a lot in. That's not a bad thing to have to look back on.
No, that's right. See, when I went to Clyde, I remember we played up at Rafe Rovers one day, and one of the boys that was at Clyde said to me, "Here, John, it says in the programme here that you're 21." I was like, "I'm 21." And they all started laughing. No, because it felt as if I'd been a boot forever. You know, I said, "What do you mean? I'm 21." So I crammed a lot in. There's things there I'll never forget. I met Michael Max. I don't know if you know Michael Max.
Yeah.
I met Michael Max recently. He stays near me and he goes into the same wee roll shop down the road that I go into. So I was having a blabber to him the other day, and we're talking about different things that happened the other years. And I said to him, "Do you know I've scored the only goal that Partick Thistle's ever scored in the Skull Cup?" And he kind of looked at me. He went, "What, didn't you know that?" I said, "That's one thing. I thought I knew everything." I went like, "No, you don't know that." So it was somebody told me one time that the goal up at Dundee United was the only goal that Thistle had ever scored in the Skull Cup. So
because knocked out in the first round every year.
Aye. So I was keeping that one as a claim to fame as well. Maybe they'll ask that. Maybe they'll ask that and beat the pundit as a tiebreaker. I'll know the answer.
Well, I mean, you've got winners' medals. So you've had winners' medals, you know, both senior level and junior level. So again, you've got these wee things as well, you know, still to show for that as well, which is always good to have.
It was brilliant, man. I had a brilliant time. I've built this big man cave at my house here, and we're always having wee parties, me and the missus, and it's funny, we've got new neighbours that have just moved in recently. Doesn't talk to me because I keep them up till like 2 a.m. and all that.
I've seen some of the videos on Facebook.
Aye, well, do you know what? It turns out the boy's a Partick Thistle supporter, and he's part of the Starton Garter supporters club or something like that. I was like, oh no. I was like, he only knows me as the arsehole next door.
I'm interested to find out who it is now.
I know. I'm not telling you his name. Brilliant.
Don't worry, John, there's not that many as we'll figure it
out. Exactly.
No, I mean, I've still keep one eye on the results and all that when I'm up there. My whole family come from that area. My dad was from Palmmuir Street. My mum was from Abington Street, which was next to St Columba's Parish Church.
Oh, I knew them well.
So you knew my parents, and you knew them. My mum worked at Firhill for a short time.
That's right.
Doing the kit and cleaning the place with wee Brenda. In fact, it had been my mum's birthday the day, 4th April.
Oh, was it?
Aye, 4/4/44. She was born. So no, I've got very fond memories up there. I've got nothing but praise for the place, the people who were there. Robert Reid, a special mention for Robert, amazing guy. Old Jackie, obviously the stand's named after.
And Molly, Molly was at Clyde as well when you were there, would you have been?
Molly was at Clyde too. Aye, Molly was there. I mean, a nicer woman you couldn't meet, you know.
I can vouch for that.
She was an amazing person. So I've been fortunate, just apart from the football, to meet all these cracking people, you know, and be friends with all these people and have really great memories with them. And that's what I say to my son who plays football. He's 15. I say, see, even if you don't even get to a level, you'll meet amazing people in football, you know, and you'll have great experiences, and you'll certainly make some friends for life. That's for sure.
But you were saying there,
that, my boy, you know, it's not all about when he was kicking the ball. It's not all about making it. It's all about the lifelong friends you make. Christ, your brother's one of mine. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you know, things like that. You know, You're right.
You know, Stuart scored the winning goal in the Scottish Cup. This winning penalty. You might have been there, Ian. The winning penalty in the Scottish Cup final for over 35s for Postle. And I seen it. I seen it on YouTube. I seen it on YouTube, and I didn't even know it was him. And a guy showed me it on YouTube, and we're watching it, and I seen the guy missing the penalty. Man, it was a retake to win it. And I was like, what a fanny. And then the boy, it was actually the boy who was on the TV. He said, what a fanny, it's your brother. I was like, so was that? It was Stuart.
Aye. I'd hung them up the season before. My legs couldn't cope anywhere. That was me done.
I know, mate. It's tough. Well, you there, and wee Billy was there as well, wasn't he?
Aye, that's it.
Wee Billy the winger, he was there. Remember him?
Still, aye.
Aye. But no,
Well, John,
I've had a brilliant time.
You said about keeping one eye on the results, and the way results have been for Thistle in about the last 3 years, one eye is enough, trust me. So, listen, thank you so much for coming on and joining us and chatting to us about your time at Thistle. It's been brilliant, as I say. Those of a certain vintage, so I mean, you played with some great players, but by God, there was absolute shockers that played beside you, especially in the early days. We were just getting over that, I think. But seriously, thanks very much for coming on.
Nice one.
Really
No, you're welcome, guys. It was great talking to you. Enjoyed it. Nobody listens to me and hear about football, time in football, so it's great to speak to somebody else.
So, thanks very much to everybody for joining us. Hopefully, by the time you get us a couple of days or so after we're recording this today. But again, thanks to John. It's Easter Sunday, so for giving up your time. We'll be back again next week, possibly with full content of the Jags Cast boys. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves, look in on your friends as well. Just make sure everybody's okay, even if it's only just a wee text or something like that. And we'll see you all again next week on the Jags.
Magic. Take care, guys. Thank you.